say less to find about you? Is that like you're creating a mystery about your band, or?
I think so.
I think there's always been a mystery about what we've created, and it would be wrong to cheat this and to do it, you know, just sitting on the couch in a suit, you know.
Shadows is way better.
Is it true that this is the first TV interview you're giving?
First and only.
Not only, but the first one, is it?
Yes, but the only one ever.
It's exclusive.
Oh, really? Why? You're wearing so beautiful costumes, and I think besides the photos, you should show them to the world.
Well, I think all will be revealed, you know, at a date, you know, that will come, and we'll know when that is, when it happens.
But also the shadows, everyone, like when you're a kid and you get the colouring in books, you know, and each chart will use different colours, so I guess people can use their own imagination of what my hand is doing at the moment.
You're creating this visual world around your band. Well, I think I really like your record, and I thought, shouldn't the music stand on its own without any visuals, without any costumes or videos? Couldn't it work without it?
It couldn't at all.
Why not?
Because music is invisible, and it's 100% stimulated to your ear. But once a visual aspect comes to it, the music becomes 50%. So if the other 50% is as stimulating to your ear that it is to your eye, then together there will be power.
How would you describe your album to someone who hasn't listened to it before?
How would you describe the first time you made love, or how would you describe being born? I don't know. How would you describe if you were the Milky Way talking to the sun about Jupiter?
So you mean there's no way to describe it?
Maybe there is a way, but I
it's
don't
too
think...
personal. It's like the lava life, like the online dating services now. It's like, describe your character. Well, I guess 90% of it would be, well, great guy, humble, good looking, loves to, you know, spend time at home, moves, was also outgoing, likes water polo, but, you know, I think it's hard to do that at the same time. Not everyone likes water polo as well.
It's true.
Can you? I know you've worked in other bands before, but can you tell me how you guys met?
We met back in 2000. A mutual friend of ours at EMI actually introduced us. A guy called Simon Moore, and I was doing quite kind of techno landscapes at the time, and he played me this stuff under the name Sleepy Jackson. And I was taken by the melody. It really struck me very strongly straight away. And we set up a kind of meeting of sorts. And we met at a bar. And at the time, Luke, those early days when I met Luke, he always carried a suitcase with him. And not a suitcase full of clothes and luggage and your toothbrush kind of thing, but every time it would have something else in it. And I remember the first time he opened it. And it was full of like 1,000 cigarette butts, but each one had a different girl's name encrypted on it. And then the next day when we went, he came up to my studio, I noticed that the suitcase was kind of glowing. And I wondered what this was, and I asked him, and he opened it up, and there were kind of hundreds of little light bulbs all kind of spelling out kind of hieroglyphic kind of messages and things. And I never understood how he had the time to do these things. But there was a mystique about Luke straight away, and I was intrigued. And there's still a lot of mystery there, you know. A lot of things that I think I've come to understand that I'll never know all those things.
Did you ever ask him how he found time to do it?
Only just recently, but he always gives these sort of cryptic answers. I guess you take what you can. I'm quite happy to kind of enjoy the mystery.
When I was listening to your record, I had, because I'm a child of the 80s, I had quite a good time and felt like I was put into sort of a time zone or something like it. Do you know where this magic might come from, that your music does such a thing?
I guess it comes from a lot of places, really. It's 80s, but also the 10s. No one says 10s. The 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 70s. You know, 80s is great because it was my childhood, so it's always a strong memory. But, you know, I think syncopation as well was a lot of programmed drums and great synthesizers that were new, and ELO did their best record in 82 time, and same with Yoko. And yeah, I think from every kind of era. Maybe the 90s would be a bit more.
I think maybe the 80s was also the last time that romance was really strong in music. And it seemed in the 90s it was sort of whitewashed away with kind of happy pants and fluoro jeans. And it seems like now, and these last 10 years seem to have been a kind of artists reliving other people's lives, sort of slipping in the skin of bands like Bauhaus or The Cure and things like that, and trying to fit their chubby arms and legs into these sort of skinny jeans of their predecessors, if you like. And we're really trying to do something new here at Empire of the Sun, and trying to take the greatness of the past, but then have also 2 steps into the future, and try and encapsulate everything that's been great about, I guess, the 20th century, and sort of take audiences to a new place.
Yeah, actually, what I've been missing in the last years is sort of the fun and entertaining aspect in music that there was in the 80s, like with bands for Duran Duran or ABC or Boy George or whatever. So do you think that we missed kind of this joyful entertainment for the last years?
I think we skipped a beat, you know. I think people stopped realizing what artists were there for, and I think they're there as the champions of the people, you know. And they open the doors, to greater things. And artists should be kind of stars in the real sense of the word, you know. Yeah. They should shine brighter.
Yeah. So Cardigan became way too popular for entertainment, jeez.
Yeah, ever since Nirvana, there's always been this dressing down, this kind of sublimation of self. And I think it's really time to celebrate the weird, the wonderful, the new, you know.
Right. When I remember back in the days, there were all these bands who did this joyful, colorful music. They all always had the critics from the rock side that they are, softies who can't play instruments, use computers because they can't play a guitar or whatever. Do you get sort of critics like that as well from the other half of rock music world?
No. We haven't really had any negative feedback. Besides the obvious Siegfried and Roy kind of comparisons, everything's been fairly positive.
Yeah, thank God it is. And you deserve it. What can you tell me about the bands you've been in before? Like Sleepy Jackson or now?
I guess.
How much influenced that to this project?
Well, I think it's inevitable that's going to influence because it's us and they're our band. So, in a way, it was kind of like an apprenticeship for both of us because, you know, this project has been, I guess, the most surrendered and liberating project we've ever done, where I think we're professional enough to know what's going on in the studio and lyric writing and melody and arrangement. So, you know, I guess it's just life. It's just very important, integral for this. It was good that I didn't continue on that emo jazz band I started in '92. Would have been a different outcome.
Mm. I think there's always going to be elements of everything we've done.
I have the feeling that there's kind of a movement going on, that there's more bands from the electric field, and even from Australia. So I've heard of a band called Cut Copy as well. So is that like kind of a trendy thing in Australia at the moment?
It's eBay.
It's what?
It's eBay. I think a lot of these bands have been rock bands, but you know, with eBay, E-Boy, you can, you know, there's a lot more exports of, you know, synthesizers down there, really in the last 5 years when it's been happening.
All right. Do you play with the other bands as well on festivals or stuff? Do you know the guys from Cut Copy or?
I did a show with Cut Copy just recently, but we didn't talk.
I did a remix for Cut Copy and never got paid.
At the festival we played in with PNAU in Tasmania, the crowd, they picked up this very full bin of beer bottles and rubbish, and rather than like crowd surfing people, they crowd surfed the bin, and then they tipped the bin on top of themselves, and then all cheered.
But do you watch what other people, what other bands from the electronic field do, like acts like Lady Gaga or some Sparrow?
Oh, I saw Lady Gaga the other day, and people have been talking about her. I can't say I'm a fan.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Sam Sparrow.
You got a bit of a poker face there, Nick.
Yeah, I can't do, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just kind of...
Are we compared to those bands? Are we in the same field as that?
I mean, like, if we take Lady Gaga, for example, she just, you know, she really focuses on the output of the visual side as well, and
It's horrible.
It's quite cheap though, isn't it? She's always kind of got her tits out and kind of running
Tapping
around.
that ass and
yeah, I don't know.
Poker face, and it's produced by, you know, Los Angeles producers, probably.
It doesn't feel like honesty to me. It feels like a sort of a deception of the soul, you know? We're trying to bring romance and kind of lyricism back into music. We want to do something that's really holistic and beautiful. Not cheap and just going for kind of hitting the top thing and then, I don't know. It seems like quite cheap.
Okay, so is there a band like the Pet Shop Boys closer to what you do?
A band like probably John Lennon or George Harrison or Elvis or Django Reinhardt or Amelie.
Pet Shop Boys have some interesting ideas. I think they had a lot of great songs, but a lot of them were reinterpretations of other people's songs.
You think so? I mean, they have the Elvis cover, or
Maybe they just had that one. West End Girls is an amazing song. Yeah.
okay, but nothing in common with you. You don't see them as heroes, or
No. Pet Shop Boys use synthesizers, and Empire of the Sun use synthesizers.
And they're a duo.
And they're a duo.
And they're
It's
flamboyant in their
perfect
costumes.
comparison.
okay, yeah, right. But is there, with the costumes you're wearing, and are you trying to hide anything, or is there like building a distance to the rest of the world?
I think we're trying to get closer to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I think we're building a bridge. I think because we appear so open and so comfortably flamboyant, we're actually, we're coming with open arms, you know, and we're ready to show ourselves kind of in a colourful form, so that, I don't know, I mean, I think we want to appeal to 2-year-olds to 82-year-olds, you know.
Coming back to your album, is that true? Because I read somewhere that you've started like in 2003 to work on this. Is that like that far away?
No, it was 2006 we started and ended.
And how was it how was the production? I mean, how did it work?
It would work in 3-hour blocks. We'd have a great dinner. We'd go in and we'd throw a lot of, you know, paints on the canvas and, you know, super fast, finish in 3 hours, and we'd have a song. That's pretty much how the whole record happened, really.
Yeah, it has to be said that Luke lives on the West Coast and I lived on the East Coast. So we wouldn't have that kind of relationship where we could walk to each other's house and just do things on an odd night. Every time we did it, it was of limited time. And you had to give everything in that moment, you know. There was a small window of opportunity. So you really make the most of that.
Then it's really great that you did it in so little time, actually, because I would think you have to like send sound files via email all the time and talk about it, but you seem to...
No, because we've both been producing records for such a long time, it's quite easy to make a song, you know, very quickly, you know. The mixing side of things took a little bit longer, but we are talking about balancing the actual craft, and the production happens very quickly.
So where did you took the ideas for the songs for the album? Where did they come from?
I think they came from everywhere. I mean, I think the record has a duplicitous relationship between kind of a love affair, or, you know, the trials that everyone has in their daily life of love and loss and regret and imagination, and, you know, hopes for the future, as well as kind of universal ideas of the world and the way the environment is going, and you know, and what kind of world we want to live in, rather than maybe the one that we do live in.
So which world do you want to live then?
Well, you know, create a new world. It's like, and so in your mind, you know, there's a difference. So.
How would you, I mean, when you didn't stick together the whole time to work on the album, how would you describe your friendship?
It's quite, you know, special. And it feels a lot like that old friend that you've known from, you know, maybe your childhood. So when they come to visit, you know, it's quite an auspicious occasion where you'll make your best chicken and garlic dish, and you'll mop the floor of the house, and you'll make sure the dog's not running around and knocking things over, and, you know, it'll be special.
Okay, back to your band's name. Is it true that you picked it from the ballads novel?
No, it doesn't come from the ballad novel.
Everyone's writing that. So.
Yeah,
Ballard and Spielberg have actually...
it just comes from the idea that we're traveling to all these places in the world where the sun has been a key figure of worship. So we went to Shanghai and we met the emperors, and we went to Mexico and we met the Aztecs, and then we're going to Iceland, actually, to meet, well, the Vikings, I guess. And then we're going through Africa to meet the nomads, and we're kind of continuing our journey. And then we're going to travel back into the Middle East, where a lot of our clothing comes from. And we're just going to continue the journey. So the idea is to take the ancient lessons and to go to these places in the world that seem almost unreal, you know, almost fantastical, and take that back to the modern world to show people maybe just one more time how amazing the world is.
How's that in your daily life? I mean, I would imagine that you don't run around the streets in that costume. I mean, where do you live out what you seem to like in real life, beside the band?
Well, I live in a house.
I live in a suitcase mainly. But I think that, you know, the costumes, they change day to day, and not every day I'm wearing a 3-foot headdress. But, you know, I guess there are special occasions for things. But I guess we always kind of like to do things a little bit different to most people.
And is that, like, for everybody easy to understand what you do?
Well, in Australia now, I think people are pretty well versed to it, yeah. It didn't come as a really complete surprise.
Why?
Well, I think on our previous albums, both Sleepy Jackson and my other band, Teenager, Luke and I had appeared separately naked on the covers. So I think once you go naked, any kind of clothing is going to be seen as less shocking.
When I was Googling your name, what I really hated was that a lot of people throw you in the same pot with MGMT and said one band is covering the other.
Yeah,
Terence
we really
Trent
hate that as
D'Arby.
well, man. It's Terence Trent D'Arby.
Terence Trent D'Arby in the future.
But so, I mean, is it just a coincidence that it's same time? But because I don't see that much parallels there that other people see.
No, we don't see it either.
Yeah.
We like, you know, we like good songs.
I think that's just the, you know, it can be a small mind of a, you know, journalistic approach. It can be,
And with
if
this,
once they can be like glued together, then that's great.
with this blog world as well, it seems there's a lot of people that don't really know much about journalism writing lots of things.
Yeah, a good old blog.
Yeah, that's bad, really. That's true. I read that you also read that you trying to do a film that should underline the concept of the album. Is that true?
That's what, yeah, Nick was talking about a minute ago, where we're shooting a video for every track, and then it's going to be narrated.
And can you tell us anything about the concept? Or?
It's like an apostolic journey of, you know, Emperor Steele and Lord Littlemore, the superheroes of the modern world. You know, walking to find the Holy Grail, basically. And along the way, there's, you know, heathen times we go through, and a lot of trials and tribulations, but
Yeah.
we can't tell you the ending, obviously.
We do sort of learn a lot of lessons along the way, and understand the kind of the perfection of nature, and how maybe a world without humans in it may be more perfect.
Mm-hmm. So
It seems like
But,
there's
you know,
a lot of
it's-
problems in the
It's,
world.
you know, it's imagination as well. It's with the film. It's,
what can you offer? Can you really change something, or can you just help to escape and?
oh, we're going to try, you know, and I think it's already changing people. So,
And the last lesson you've learned on that journey, what was that?
the last lesson we learned was when we did an interview last night. We were talking, and we never spoke about healing. And it, you know, sometimes in interviews, it can be therapeutic because they can tap into a different psyche inside of you and what was actually happening. And that was a lesson that I think we learnt, that we had. It was such a surrendered, liberating process making this record that, looking back at it now, a year later, it was a healing time. And you know, like miracles, you know, a small thing can be a miracle. It doesn't have to be, you know, the ocean floor parts and there's a McDonald's in the middle, or, you know, Penelope Cruz, you know, comes walking in the bedroom. You know, I think they're all different. So it was a good understanding for us that there's greater things happening.